Hello, my name is Erica, and I'm the Dyslexic Trekkie. Before I get started, I'd like to welcome all the new subscribers. Your interest really helps out, and Ensign Bradbury has agreed that for every 100 subscribers, he'll let you all hear one of his kitten's logs. When Star Trek was first conceived, Gene Roddenberry envisioned a time and place where humanity had evolved to be better than the racist times he lived in. Why and how this became a part of his life is something I've always wondered. Regardless of his reasons, his hope for the future was that the social conflicts we deal with now and he dealt with would be overcome. This meant story conflicts in the original series almost always came from the outside. We have the somewhat antagonistic issues between McCoy and Spock, along with the issues that come when we meet Spock's parents, but for the most part, social conflicts are something brought in from the outside. The Enterprise encounters aliens that threaten the Federation, or aliens who have social issues within their society that the Federation needs to help them work through. As a writer, I can say it's difficult to create a story without some sort of internal conflict. But I think Gene Roddenberry only ever saw such a thing as a product of racism or other forms of social prejudice. And yes, I know the original series had real issues with sexism, but it's hard to address an issue you don't really recognize exists. The one time it did is better not talked about, and I don't consider canon. Feel free to argue the point in the comments section. In The Next Generation, Gene Roddenberry took the original concept to the next level. If in TOS, humanity had moved beyond its issues of racism and social inequality, The Next Generation had reached a point of enlightenment where even the kind of conflicts between McCoy and Spock would be unthinkable. It shows in how Kirk's era of Star Trek is talked about in later shows. Their cowboy diplomacy, as it's called, is considered to be antiquated, and as backward as some might talk about the 1960s misogyny. But again, as a writer, this puts up barriers to story creation that are hard to overcome. You have to have a steady flux of outside conflict to create something worth watching. But this creates another problem. What does it say about a society where the other is always either a problem to be solved or someone meant to be helped? I don't think it's intentional, but it feeds into the white savior myth. The backwards other needs the stabilizing force of Western, or in this case, Federation culture, to show them the error of their ways. I think it's why you so often hear characters from shows say how they respect people's cultures. There's always an implied but to the statement. I respect your culture, but it's not right to do this thing. I respect your culture, but we follow a scientific method which has no room for religion. I respect your beliefs, but I think you're wrong. That's what's really being said. I think the characters get away with it because they believe they do genuinely respect the cultures around them. This kind of backhanded respect isn't so obvious in TNG. The story told is of an integrated society that has room for everyone, even people from societies the Federation was once at war with. Thank you, Michael Dorn. Racism, ableism, sexism, and even gender and attraction-based prejudice is theoretically behind us. Gene Roddenberry lost the fight in including LGBT+ characters, but I have to respect him for wanting to do it. The undertone of helping the primitive was hardly noticed as the Enterprise made its way, and I do have to hand it to the show for occasionally making it clear that to some cultures, the Federation were the primitives. Yes, Q, that means you, but more than Q. The Enterprise encounters a number of races that, in their own way, have technological and sometimes social advances beyond that of the Federation. Then Gene Roddenberry's health began to fail. His lawyer and co-producer took over work he would have usually been involved in, and we see the introduction of a new character. Ensign Ro Laren introduced a race to the franchise that challenged the ideas of the paradise promised by the Federation. Now, I have to say, I really love DS9. And it's for some of the same reasons why I hate and approve of what was done in Picard Season 1 with the breakdown of the Federation ideals. Society isn't perfect. No society, no matter how much we want it to be. Even if a society finds a point where such issues as racism, sexism, ableism, and other prejudices have been dealt with, we can't promise things will stay that way. Everything changes, and not always for the better. DS9 challenged the ideals of the Federation by taking the culture that uses respect as a way of saying we accept your primitive ways and forces them to work with a race far more ancient than Earth, and maybe even Vulcan. The Bajorans aren't primitive. They are a race that was held back by multiple generations of oppression by another race that stripped the resources of their planet. Bajor is far more ancient than Earth. They were space-worthy before humans had fully explored the Earth's surface. Through the seasons, it becomes clear that Bajor successfully accepted science and faith, then scientifically proved key elements of their faith were in fact real. As I said in my video on religion in Star Trek, the prophets are real. Bajor can literally point to a place in space and say that's where they are, but they are the primary source of conflict for much of the series. The argument between whether to call them the aliens in the wormhole or the prophets in the celestial temple is something that drives much of the conflict. This isn't Gene Roddenberry's vision, and that's why some people genuinely hate the series. I can understand it, but I have a different view. One's values mean nothing if they aren't challenged. As much as I love TNG, you rarely see that. Bad thing happens to other people, the Enterprise comes in and fixes bad thing, then the Enterprise flies off with the crew, usually satisfied that they helped another people in need. There's variance to this theme, but it's largely what happens. But DS9 challenged the Starfleet crew to get along with people with a profoundly different culture. It forced their hero, Captain Benjamin Sisko, to address his own personal feelings relating to PTSD, loss, and grief. Then he's forced to find a way to live with the role in conflict with the duties he has as a Starfleet officer. He's conflicted between his ideals as a Starfleet officer and his growing sense of home with the Bajorans. And that's just one character. As much as people hate the fact that we have people who hate others and some people who can't accept the challenge created by accepting help from an outside source, it forces the Federation to finally face its sense of superiority it never realized it felt. One of my favorite scenes in the show is when Sisko rants to Major Kira about how the Federation doesn't take threats seriously by the Maquis because they can't understand the threat while living in paradise. Something Major Kira basically said to him for years. When she says he won't hear any arguments from her, you can hear the implied, "I told you so," loud and clear. But beyond the rich layers of story told with the conflicts of DS9, I think the Federation is at its best. You see them work with the Bajorans, get along with them, learn their cultures, take part in their special events, and even adapt to the people of Bajor. You see the two learn to enjoy their differences of opinions and even appreciate the fights they have. The dynamic couldn't have existed on either Enterprise. It shows that the values of the Federation aren't just one found in times of ease, but even in times of distress. Thank you for watching. If you've enjoyed this video, please like, share, and subscribe. If you have any thoughts, feelings, or ideas, please share in the comments below. If you notice any spelling or reading mistakes in this video, please comment within the first week of posting for the chance to choose a future topic. Again, my name is Erica, and I'm the Dyslexic Trekkie. Hello, this is Editing Erica. If you're thinking this video ended kind of abruptly, it's because it did. I actually had what would probably end up being another 5 minutes worth of recording and decided it made more sense to create another shorter video for you to watch in the next week. So I hope you'll all be interested in watching the next half next week in my Star Trek Minute, relating to some of the more contemporary questions in the use of conflict and its purpose in the newer shows.